Previously on Strategic Storytelling.
So then social media happened, Facebook happened, and that kind of kickstarted this entire new wave of, hey, you can, any business, any size, any shape can do marketing. And there's lots of hiccups there as well on like, you can just say whatever you want and get away with it, right? There were no laws about that at all the time.
It definitely evened the playing field for everyone, whether that is good or bad. Like you said, it gave everybody a voice.
The second part of that conversation continues now.
So if a client comes in and we've asked them all these questions and we've talked about all of these things and we've picked up the platforms we want to be on, the next thing is to choose what to start posting and how to do that. I think not so long ago, photos were can't just be text, it has to be photos. And now the big thing is, it can't just be photos, it has to be video. So what are some of the trends we're seeing with some of this now?
Yeah. So the trend has actually not changed for many years now. It was always, or not always, in the past, let's just call it 6-7 years.
Sure. Yeah.
It has been, if you post text only, lowest amount of engagement. Photo/graphic. Actually, graphic really was next. Photo, video being top amount of engagement. That is kind of always how it's been. There are some weird rules around that. So for instance, if I'm on Facebook and I share a YouTube link, instead of directly uploading it to Facebook, the video,
right.
That will not work as well for you. That's treated a little bit more like text if you didn't put it with anything else, because Facebook doesn't like YouTube. But that said, in general, that's the hierarchy. Video is at the top. Photo is next. Graphic, text only, right? I think the one weird one that's kind of in the middle is links to a downloadable or a webinar or just a website page where you put the link in, it pops up that little photo, right? Those are somewhere in the weird middle between kind of photographic video,
right?
Just depending on what happens when you share that link. Because I've seen it done very poorly. I've seen it done very well, where you'll share the link and it's a photo that is just perfect for that post. And I've seen it other ways where it's no photo, just blank gray box, right? And obviously that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
No engagement there really at all. So that's kind of the hierarchy. I think the big thing that happened though is that video during and following COVID became so much more, which is a really hard thing for small businesses in terms of cost, right? And ability, actually.
Yeah.
The big thing that happened there is it's not video as a whole really, so much as it's Facebook, Instagram, Meta saw TikTok becoming this big competitor for them during the COVID time. And they said, oh crap, people like these short form, more realistic, not necessarily overproduced, widescreen video. It was more like funny memes, and that's really what TikTok started as. Yeah. And or singing and dancing. I think TikTok originally was dancing. It was dancing and singing. Right? It's really not that anymore. But and I think so Facebook and Instagram were like, no, we're doing this thing called Reels. YouTube tried it too with Shorts, which they still have. I'm not sure the success of that, but and they said, well, okay, now Reels are king.
Yeah.
If you do Reels, you will absolutely get a way bigger reach on those, 100%. Now that's good and bad for small business, because if I own a coffee shop, this is actually a good example, and I think I can just call it out here. So we do a lot of work for Stafari locally. It's a coffee shop / restaurant now, mostly restaurant now, and we did a lot of Reels for them, and it was they've done really well. We've got some Reels out there that have hit 2 million views.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. They're really happy. We're really happy. Obviously, we're touting that we can get the following, right? We can really get the following. That said,
but it also took time.
it took time, of course. But that said, like, we live in a county of about 120,000, but we're 2 million views in. Well, all those people aren't necessarily just like hanging out at this coffee shop locally.
Right.
And so unless they have something they can ship out to them, product or service that they can sell to somebody that saw this reel out in Michigan or California or whatever, right? It's not necessarily translating to sales. That said, the reach itself is going to help the page overall, even with local people. So it can absolutely really help sales and growth. But the reels, like, they're going to everybody. They're not as localized as just a regular post. And so that really, it just changes a little bit how you think about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm going to be selling at the farmer's market, a highly localized vendor show, right? If I can get, 200,000 views on that, great. Just recognize that you're not getting 200,000 views of customers that are going to buy at that place at that time, right? And so I think it's kind of a little weird thing. We obviously promote reels extremely heavily here because you can do that. And a lot of the companies we work with can sell online or do work remotely for people or ship out product or whatever. So they're not trying to say there's no value to it. There's a ton of value to it. It's just very different than normal video.
Of course. Yeah. And because we have to explain that to our clients, and we have to kind of ask them, like, who do they want to reach and how do they want to reach them? And like you said regular video versus real video. It's all video. It all takes a little bit of time, but it needs to be concentrated. It needs to be focused on the thing that we want it to do. Because like you said, if it feels too produced, then everybody's like, well, this is less authentic now. So then the trust goes down and all that. So everything has to be kind of, thought of when we're doing that.
Well, you have to be careful about that too, because like I see a lot of people that are definitely, it's more individuals that are like trying to make this clickbaity and, become influencers and all this stuff. And, I'm not saying it doesn't work necessarily, but like I see stuff all the time where it's like, follow for part 2. And it like just ends on a cliffhanger almost. And like, okay, that worked really well for me in the, movie 2 of 3 in the theaters, but like, I'm not interested in going further just to see something that I don't even know what I'm getting yet.
Right.
And so that to me, at least, I don't know, it probably works with some, but to me is like extremely disingenuous and like, okay, I watched
to be used.
I watched for 30 seconds. Got zero return on my investment of time.
Right.
And now you're trying to drag me along for the ride longer. Like,
you have to be
snake oil.
you have to be very careful with those kinds of campaigns, if you will. Because you're right. It can be clever. It can be done well, but it
can also be done terribly.
It could also be done very kind of clickbaity and you feel, you're like, by the time you get to the end of it, I've done this and it's like, oh, what? Like, what?
I wish we could, like, while we're doing these, take like live polling, like, who here likes clickbait?
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's going to say no.
No one likes clickbait. You're just like, because you get through it, you're like, oh, they totally got me. Oh man,
dang it!
Why did I?
Now I'm to this website that I don't even know where I'm at on the internet, and there's 50 ads, and I can't even read the content.
Exactly. But that brings me to something you mentioned earlier, is about engagement, and how, one, everybody's like, how do I get it? How do I get one more? How do I get it? How do I get more of it? And I think that's a good question to ask, but also it's the quality of engagement as well.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about engagement a little bit?
Oh, engagement. So engagement is a really broad term.
Well, yeah, right? Let's define it.
And so what that really means, it means different things on different social media platforms, actually.
Yes, it does.
But in general, as a whole, engagement means a couple things. I watched the video, I clicked the link, I liked the post, I commented on the post, I shared the post, right? Those are the 5 basic things, and there's a couple other weird ones. Really, you're trying to get them to do something like that, right? Because the other thing that social media has done, this has been around for a while. It's just gotten worse, I think, is in terms of organic viewability or people finding you, you need engagement, not reach. Reach being just people scrolled by this in their feed. Engagement being they actually stopped and looked at this for more than 3 seconds.
Yes.
Right. Which is why so many people try to put this clickbaity stuff out, like shocking and and make you stop and watch this thing for more than 3 seconds, whether it was something that you were interested in at all or not. But that's what engagement really is, down to its technical term, right? And so I would also say that the different kinds of engagement warrant different outcomes, right?
Right.
And this is where it gets really tricky. They do track a couple things like views on video, if it's video. They do track link clicks, but otherwise it's just kind of a general engagement number. You can kind of dive down a little bit on it, but in general, they're giving you like this was the engagement that occurred in total. But the reason they're doing that is because if you have any engagement at all, any of these forms of engagement, you are now more likely to be seen by others who would be interested in what you have to share. So in general, all engagement is good. That said, when it comes to like true ROI, the social media platforms as a whole, they don't really want you leaving the social media platforms. Okay.
No, they don't.
This is where it gets a little tricky, because they want you to comment on this within their platform. They don't want you to click a link and go away. They don't. Well,
that's why earlier you said Facebook doesn't really like YouTube, because when you click on YouTube,
because then you're at YouTube.
Takes you.
They want to be your video platform,
right?
They don't want YouTube to be your video platform, because they're really looking, and it all comes down to money. We want you to view our ads on our platform, not their ads on their platform.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to for them. Which is why this gets really crazy when you start talking about influencers and paid contracts and all kinds of other things.
Yep.
But to back up, the engagement is what you're looking for. It's kind of challenging. I mean, Facebook has even tried things like stuff within Facebook where you can complete an entire transaction to purchase without ever leaving Facebook or Instagram. Those things have not worked out very well, but they did exist more heavily and do still exist to some extent. Like Facebook Marketplace is a good example of that.
Right.
If you go to Facebook Marketplace now, you're thinking you're getting all local stuff, and it turns out you're not, because there are ads in there for definitely not local product, services, whatever. So there's lots of ways to do this. But really, like when we are looking at our clients, it's a little challenging too, because all engagement is good engagement, but at the end of the day, it depends on what the client is really looking for,
right.
Which is also not very clear, right? I think at the end of the day, all of our clients would say, yes, we would like to bring in more money, we'd like more sales, but it's not that simple. I'm trying to think of a good example. I'll use banks.
Okay.
Banks are a decent example. We have a lot of banks around here. The likelihood that somebody is ready to do something with a new bank today is unlikely, because we all kind of already have a bank.
Right.
What they really want is for you to remember them when they are ready to do something that they have to offer, such as buy a house,
right?
Take out a business loan, take out some other kind of loan, open a new account, open a business account, whatever. And so that's a little more challenging, because you can't really track ROI on a customer of a bank today necessarily when we post for them, right? They're looking for more like long-term engagement, so that they're more in front of people when those things do come up.
Right. So you need to be consistent, and you need to be at top of mind.
Yeah.
Every day, all day, for them. So
that's kind of like that bigger side, right? Yeah. Whereas if I'm a coffee shop, right? I want people to come into my coffee shop right now and buy the thing right now.
Yep.
Right. And I want them to do that every day.
Yeah.
So they're very different models in terms of the engagement. And same thing too. I'll pick on two different other examples. If I own a restaurant and I'm doing a lunch special, I want them to come in today to buy the lunch special, right? I want them to physically come here. I'm not selling them anything online. I can't.
Right.
If I sell, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know, some kind of product, this chair I'm sitting in, right? They might buy it right now, and that would be best for sure. But really, I really want them on my email list so that when they're buying furniture, whatever. So
Again,
the engagement that I really want is them to sign up the email list. And then if I'm somewhere in the middle, like I can ship you a $10 product, I really need you to make a purchase this moment, or you're probably never making it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So the levels of engagement are they're measured all the same by all the social platforms, but they translate differently.
Oh, for sure.
And that can make it a little bit challenging, I think, for companies to know what they're really looking for when they come talk to us, right?
Well, the cost is very different, and cost not just in dollars spent, but in time as well. Like, because like you said, the example for the bank with a mortgage to the coffee shop with coffee, like just everything about that is the plan, the spend of time and money. Completely different.
They're very different things.
Yeah.
Very different things.
Yeah.
And
because if the bank comes in and is like, I want to be popular like the coffee shop. And it's like, well, okay, great. But that's a very different, it's a very different way to do that.
And there's even layers beyond that too. Like there are lots of marketing campaigns that have no desire to sell you anything right now.
No,
they don't. That's not what they're looking for. There's lots of reasons for that, but they're happy to pay, buku bucks for a campaign that gets them exactly $0 in return.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for email list growth or brand recognition, or, I think a good example are your Super Bowl commercials, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's not very many Super Bowl commercials that are for something that I'm going to get on my phone and buy right this second.
True.
But you're talking about beer stuff, right? Like they want you to buy their product at every bar you go to for the next 10 years. They want to be your brand, right? And so for them, it's way more about the branding than it is the product, because they're not changing their product. Not happening.
No.
They want you to feel something. They want you to have nostalgia when you have their, and quite frankly, this is a real thing too. Like if I grew up as an adult, if I had, Bud Light, just as for instance, and that was the drink of choice, right? Like if I'm 50 now, they want you to feel nostalgia for that and think of these parties and good times that you had with drink, whatever, with friends and family. And like, that's what they're going for. The car commercials. Oh, those Christmas car commercials. Like they're so emotional.
They make you feel all warm and fuzzy and
And so there's just entire campaigns around feeling, not sales today.
Mm-hmm.
And so long story short, when companies come and talk to us about like what they're looking for, it's not as clear as I need sales this moment.
Yeah.
How do you need them and from who and how do you even operate? They're just very different.
Yeah. And we have to figure that out for them too. Like,
and so some of them don't. Some
just
don't know. They don't, I hear all the time. I kind of joke about it. When people tell me they need marketing, they really mean I need sales.
Well, yeah, because they either want to bring on more customers and because they want to make more money. And
at the end of the day, obviously that's where this should all lead.
Right.
But recognizing too, like, this is not your 1980s sales work we're doing here.
No.
It's become way more complex, for better or worse. We do this stuff, and I won't even say it's necessarily better, but it is required to get more sales. You have to do this a certain way. You cannot be a lightning rod where you fly by night, get sales overnight, and disappear. It just doesn't work.
No.
And social media as a whole, really, I mean, there's other factors, but in reality, social media made it that way.
Yeah.
They are the biggest catalyst for this change.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that we can talk about social media wise that I don't know, maybe kind of like for our last thing here, like the three lists are always fun. when contemplating marketing and utilizing social media for their business, what are the 3 things that businesses should be thinking about?
Brian apparently thinks I need to make up a list in the moment because he did not ask me this before the podcast.
I did not. I'm putting him on the spot. Let's see how well he does, everyone.
Top 3 things for social media. Let me preface this list with, it is a little challenging because it depends on which platform we're talking about.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I definitely think that this list of 3 even changes a little bit depending on which platform we're on, and we didn't even talk about all of them so far.
No, we did not.
But across the board, consistency is number 1. That is the thing that we look for first. We make a lot of traction for people just by being consistent when they were not before coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the posts are not the most beautiful, perfect things, even if we're still learning the brand, even if we're, it's better to do something consistently than nothing. Right. Or barely anything super, super well. Right. So consistency is number 1.
That's 1.
Number 2, I think I would point to the content as a whole.
Okay.
Thinking about what kind of content for which platform. Right. And we didn't really hit on this, but you shouldn't be doing them all unless you're a very large company.
Yeah.
But like really, it comes down to that audience that you're looking for and crafting that content for that audience. I won't go as far in this discussion to say, this type of content for this audience, whatever, or this type of content for this platform, but just in general, being aware of the kind of content you're putting out and how you're putting it out is extremely important for each different platform. And even if you like, we do this here, we use content across different platforms. We do alter them.
Yeah, we use them differently.
Not completely, but slightly. Image size or a little bit of the graphic itself.
Each platform has its own kind of do's and don'ts, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do something that will
like
make
your meme funny TikTok ain't working on LinkedIn. Sorry.
Right. No, not at all.
Just nope. Absolutely not. So the type of content and being aware of that, I think, is number 2.
Okay, so that's 2.
Number 3, I always come back to the data.
Okay.
Right.
You love your data.
I love my data because it's real. I can point to something that's real, and it's not just an emotion.
My creativity is real.
Yes. What day is it? And what I mean by the data is not like, I actually don't, I think some clients would actually disagree with this, but I don't feel that the data needs to always be up. Like it doesn't need to be up and up and up and up every single week, every single month, whatever. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of the story that's being told by the data. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I know that now. See, now you're like all into it.
You use the key word there, story.
I think the story is important because some people freak out when, we're running something and, the engagement dropped 10% this week or whatever. I'm like, okay, but like, is that drop in 10% or, this lesser reach, is it reaching more of the right people?
Right.
Because if so,
that's better.
That's better.
Yeah.
Like, if I've got 100 people that saw post A and only 10 of them were people that could buy from me versus 10 people that saw post B and 10 of them could buy from me. There's a big difference there.
That is a huge difference.
And you also spent less.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so it's not quite that simple. And I know it's easy to look at those numbers. But the story that the data is telling you about what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and where we're going with it, I think is extremely important. I've seen lots of campaigns, social media and not, where they'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on the ad spend and they get nothing for it. Mm-hmm. Whereas we'll often run these little ad campaigns that like, you're not hitting near as many people, but you got a sale, right. And so that to me is way more important and interesting, I think. So there's like 50 ways to unpack that. But
well, yeah.
Storytelling of the data, super important to be paying attention to no matter what you're doing on social media.
No, I think you brought up a good point there that it doesn't always have to be up, 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 up. It seeing the dips and dives and rises helps helps you better as a business to figure out, oh, okay, well, this didn't work out. But, or also like, I really liked your analogy there. Like, well, we, 40 less people are seeing this. We're like, well, did you still sell 10 that month? Like, yeah, like that's better.
Change? Well, you spent less money for that.
That's better.
Right. We increased, this gets really technical, but like if I decrease the spend, but you got the same amount out of it, right? That's actually a decrease in acquisition cost.
Yeah. As a small business, I see that.
It doesn't actually matter how many people you sold to. It could actually be zero, right? And obviously that's not our goal. But if you sold to zero out of that ad campaign, but the ad campaign cost you less, your customer acquisition costs went down, and that is always a good thing,
right?
Unless, of course, you learn nothing from it. In which case, we're just throwing darts. But well,
that's what we're trying not to.
We're trying not to throw darts. We're trying to really hone in on that. I think. I get this question a lot with paid ads, like, well, when should I expect to see something out of that? And I'm like, dude, I got to run the first ad and see what we're even dealing with here.
Right.
I had a client, this is a little off topic, but it was Facebook ads though. We ran some ads the first time they ever done that. And I had kind of told them like, hey, the website, I don't know. It's not, we didn't build it. It's not really what I want, but we'll do this. So we're increasing the data. It's all going really well. People are clicking. I'm showing them like, dude, like more link clicks every week. We're doing really well, whatever. He's like, we're not getting any sales, 0 sales. And so then I said, give me access to Google Analytics and so on and so forth. We're getting all these link clicks and then they're dropping off immediately before they ever fill out the form or even start, right? And I'm like, okay, there's a problem with the website, not the ad. The ad is doing exactly what I want it to do.
Right.
It's showing the people that we're getting are exactly within your target. That web page is not working. It's not closing for you. So either A, your audience does not want to fill out that long form with a bunch of required fields, or B, you're not getting them over the hump there, right? And so all that to just say, the data is really important, and the story it's telling is extremely important because I always I've been saying this a little bit more lately. Your eyes lie to you. Okay. What you're seeing is a lie sometimes. Right. You need to really figure out what's actually going on there.
Right. Well, and you brought up another good point that you're seeing not only the successes, but the failure points as well. And okay, so the ad is working, but then also like they were like, well, we're not receiving any more sales. It's like, okay, well, there's obviously something wrong here. So you got to like figure that out. And then once you saw like, oh, there's instant drop off when you get to the website. Well, there's your problem. So then, but then there's your problem, and that's something you can fix.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it the other way too, where it's not the website necessarily. But we're running these like beautiful posts and ads and whatever. And then like people are showing up to this place of business and they're like, the experience that I got when I arrived with the people or the place or whatever is not the story being told to me.
Yeah.
Right. Typically we see that a little bit more with like the experience, not necessarily the, like, cause when we're posting, like, we're not trying to like make it look like, this 5-person small business is 100-person conglomerate or anything like that. We're not trying to like exaggerate to that point, but we've dealt with this in our own business or businesses. Like people show up and like the person at the front is having a bad day. So the experience they had was not super great. And then you're like, this doesn't translate what I'm seeing on social media versus the reality of the situation when I arrived. And so, same kind of thing as like I get to the landing page for the website and they're not doing what I want, but also just like if you're more of a physical location, the experience has to be the same the whole way through, or people feel like it's disingenuous. They feel like you told them a story on social media, right? Which is it's a pretty common thing, actually. And then you lose a customer.
Mm-hmm. You have to keep that. You have to keep that through line consistent throughout. Like it has to be, or else, like you said, there's, we're, like I said at the beginning of this, we're smarter consumers. We'll find somewhere else to, get that coffee, buy that cupcake,
which is not easy. Like, I think it's important to just say, like, we know that that's not easy to like keep everything perfect and together, from marketing through end sale through retention of customer.
Right.
We're all human. We all make mistakes. We've made mistakes. Like, it's not, we know it's not, it's easier to say it than it is to do it. But at the same time, this is an expectation that people are setting. They want the experience that they were marketed to be the same that they experience. And that is not easy, but it does create long-term retention and growth.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what all businesses want.
Yeah.
We didn't cover everything about social media for sure, because there is plenty more to go into. And we will definitely be talking about this again. And I think probably in more detail and breaking
we got to get
breaking the platforms
really
down,
specific stuff.
But I think this was a really educational talk. I learned a bunch of things about this, so thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Strategic Storytelling with Brian and Jesse. Thanks for listening to Strategic Storytelling, a Pathfinder podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow our socials. For more information, visit our website, yourpathfinder.io.